up, family? Hour number 2 here at the Stephen A. Smith Show on a funky, fresh Friday edition. ESPN Radio, ESPN app, and ESPN News. Michael Leaves in for Stephen A. today. You can join the conversation. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Also, hit me up on Twitter if you want to, at Michael Eaves. Hey, baseball season rolls along. Tune in tomorrow as Aaron Judge and the Yankees host the Indians, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern. That's 9:30 out west on ESPN Radio and in the ESPN app. Laker fans, where are your emotions right now after the news of what happened with Boogie Cousins yesterday? You had high expectations because you have Anthony Davis joining LeBron James, but you also had Boogie Cousins, and you got him for cheap. So the expectations were high already, and then he comes in to join the squad, and then you hear the news yesterday that he got hurt. Where are your emotions right now? What does this do to your expectations? Hit me up on Twitter, at Michael Eaves, or you can give us a call, 888-SAY-ESPN, 729-3776. Going now to the phone lines, Young Masuk joining us. He's out in Las Vegas where Team USA is getting prepared for the upcoming World Championships. And I read your piece on ESPN.com just moments ago, and I tell everyone listening they can do the same thing or go through the app. Clearly, this was a devastating news nugget for the entire basketball world out there in Vegas to absorb. What was it like when the news started to trickle through?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost kind of like a dark cloud was hanging over Team USA's practice yesterday here in Los Angeles at the Lakers facility. It was like, no matter how you feel about DeMarcus Cousins, like if you liked him, if you didn't like him, no one ever wants to see a player go through 3 injuries in 2 years,
right,
all to the same leg. The Achilles was devastating enough, Mike. Like, I spent some time around Boogie last year kind of working on a story about his rehab. He had to learn how to walk again after tearing his Achilles. I mean, he had to basically, I think it was like only a few days after his surgery, he was like literally trying to take baby steps in his backyard with his trainer with like what was like felt like a 25-pound cast around his leg. He had to learn how to like pick up marbles with his toes, which was like excruciating pain for him every day for like basically, he had to pick up like 20 marbles and then move them across the room. And he just wasn't able to do that, all just to get back on the court the first time. Then he gets back, starts to play well, and then he tears his quad in the playoffs, comes back from that in the playoffs, the same postseason, and now he has this, and he was looking like in terrific shape. Draymond Green had said to him, he saw him a week ago when they were in the Bahamas, and Draymond said to him, "You look like Kentucky Boogie. I haven't seen you this slim and this fit since then, and I couldn't wait to see him destroy the rest of the league." And now, there's some wondering if DeMarcus will be able to bounce back from 3 catastrophic injuries to the same leg.
And that's the thing. And that's a very good point you bring up, Owen, because my thing is like he's already suffered 2 injuries that no NBA player would ever want to suffer one of, and that's an Achilles and that's an ACL. He's got 2 of them, and you mentioned the quad is all in the same leg in a span of about 2.5 to 3 years. Like the dude just can't catch a break, and you feel like he was just wanting to play so badly, and this happens. Like I don't care if you're a Boogie fan or not, like how you cannot feel some type of pain for what he's going through is beyond me. But let me ask you this, Owen, because you are in Los Angeles, you are there in the shadow of Staples Center, and what the expectation was coming into this season. How is this news being received by Laker fans there in LA who had the thought that maybe they could go to the NBA Finals this year?
It's in the middle of the summer, so you're not getting as much reaction, but they're upset. I mean, because I think, this is like a low risk, high reward this thing for the Lakers that not a lot of people were expecting much for Boogie, but like you also knew at his worst, he could get you a double-double on any night. And if he was good, then you could see maybe flashes and signs of the guy who had a triple-double when he went down and tore his Achilles in New Orleans. This is a guy who looked good enough at times where he had like basically he could probably give you 16 points, 10 rebounds in limited minutes. Defensively he might have been challenged with his mobility because of all the injuries he went through. But certainly, you were thinking that the Lakers' strength was Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. Those two knew how to play with each other and at times played very well in New Orleans.
Right.
And then you add LeBron James into the mix and Kyle Kuzma. So certainly they were thinking, this is a strength of ours. Now all of a sudden it's a weakness because they still have Anthony Davis, but only JaVale McGee behind him. And they need another center because the whole thing was Anthony Davis doesn't really want to play center. He'd rather play power forward.
Exactly. And because he is so versatile, it's better for him not to play center because he can do so many other things from different spots on the floor. So that was actually a bonus to have DeMarcus Cousins alongside Anthony Davis because of that dynamic, and you got the whole LeBron James thing in there. So I wonder from a Lakers standpoint and the fan standpoint, you know what, I'm going to ask your professional opinion on this, Ohm. You've covered this league for quite some time. So coming into the season, based on what they had done, the Lakers, I believe, were the second betting choice behind the Clippers as in terms of the favorites for the NBA title. How devastating is this to their chances of getting to the NBA Finals?
I'm not going to go as far as and say it's devastating, but it's a blow. And Steve Kerr actually used that word, that it was a blow to the Lakers because by come playoff time, DeMarcus Cousins would have been removed from his Achilles injury for about a year and a half, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, even longer than that. And so, like, you feel like, he would kind of be approaching that time necessary to kind of rebound from an injury like that, and then maybe he would be hitting his stride. And they would have a guy like, listen, load management is going to come into play with the Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they're going to have to be load managed this season. To have DeMarcus Cousins on that floor and be able to throw the ball into him and know that you're going to get some easy buckets, well, that's something that basically I think, they could look forward to and have some mismatches there. Frank Vogel had a lot of his success in Indiana with Roy Hibbert and David West. And while it's a different NBA now, a much more open one that seems to really kind of minimize the big man, I think Frank Vogel was looking forward to some of the matchups he would have with those two guys.
Young Masuk, ESPN Lakers reporter, joining us here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Let me switch gears while I have you on to USA basketball as a whole. A lot of the stories we've had, leading up until now is about the guys who aren't there as opposed to the guys who are there. What is the vibe right now around this team as they're getting ready to try to win a world championship?
I think they are trying to very much prove to people that they're good. I think there's a lot of doubt around this team, especially around the guys that are trying to make this team. Just like as far as people are probably wondering, is this one of the more worse USA basketball teams has been assembled because so many guys pulled out and are not coming. So I think, and then you got a lot of young guys that probably were, like Kyle Kuzma was like, I'm not even supposed to be in consideration for him. I'm not supposed to be here. And so I think there's a lot of guys like that, De'Aaron Fox, even Kemba Walker to some degree, they have something to prove. They want to show that they're good. And even a couple of days ago, we watched a scrimmage, and it was only a 10-minute scrimmage, but they got drilled by the select team, which is made up of G League guys. And so I think they want to show hey, we're not bad. We're better than this, and people think that we're really bad.
Right. And that's sometimes we get caught up on the wrong side of things. You know what I'm saying? About I was talking earlier about Lamar Jackson. People concentrate too much on what he can't do versus what he can do. And it sort of seems to be the way with USA basketball. It's we're concentrating more on who's not here and who is here and what they can accomplish going forward. But it is still, it's not the Olympics, okay? Let's be real. It's not the Olympics. And even when we had the Olympics in Brazil, there were some guys who didn't want to play that year. I mean, you can't get all the guys you want each and every year. But nonetheless, last time I checked, this is still a damn good basketball team.
Yeah, look, you still have Kemba Walker on that team. Donovan Mitchell, who I think is going to have an outstanding World Cup if he's able to stay healthy. I think he's had a pretty strong camp here. And, of course, you have Greg Popovich. And you got NBA players who are young and up and coming. I think, Jerry Colangelo is looking at this and seeing a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds and kind of equating it to 2010 and 2012 when they had some big names pull out and they kind of had to see maybe what the next generation had to offer. And so while there isn't a lot of star power and in these names here, these are guys that might not be with them for Team USA in the Olympics next year, but certainly could represent them down the road. And so I think their USA basketball is kind of eager to see how well their future looks, especially if these guys can come together, because that's the big challenge for them right now. And they don't really have a lot of chemistry. And even though other countries have lost a lot of talent because the NBA season is right around the corner and guys want to rest and things like that, those other teams, though, have like grown men who have played with each other like almost throughout their lives. So they have that chemistry that USA basketball is still looking to gain.
And that's a very good point you bring up, Owen, because this is not just about one particular competition. It's about a program that is USA basketball, building chemistry, building a pipeline of talent to be ready when they do have those Olympic years. And also the FIBA World Championships, it's a big deal. But to have that essence grow and continue to grow so that they always have this long lineage of guys who can go out there and try to win a championship. So everyone's getting caught up on maybe who's not there, but this is a process that's well beyond just this particular competition. It's about looking ahead to multiple Olympics and World Championships. Young Masuk here on ESPN Radio. Thanks for the time, man. Be good.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, Mike.
Yo.
I can't believe they didn't give you any Popeyes, their driver.
She was stingy, dog. She was too stingy. Maybe she only got a 2-piece. I don't know. Young Masuk.
Was this Popeye's breakfast?
No, it was no, bro. This was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, there was a biscuit in there, though.
She deserves a tip.
Yes. You know what? She did. She got tips. She got 5 stars as well. The whole deal. Young Masuk here. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN app. Again, if you have a story about a rideshare, Uber, Lyft, what have you, you can hit me on Twitter at Michael Eaves, or even give us a call, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I'm going to take a quick right turn here and go from basketball to the NFL. And over the last several days, we've had this conversation ongoing about the union between Jay-Z's Rock Nation and the NFL on entertainment endeavors, booking guests, most notably for the Super Bowl halftime show, but also pushing the league's initiative to help with social justice, okay? Now, when it first happened, clearly a lot of people were surprised, and we're beyond the surprise conversation now, right? What the conversation has been now is people being critical of Jay-Z based on the things he had said in the past about Colin Kaepernick, things he'd said in the past about the NFL, but now here you are doing this with the league, and according to Robert Kraft, this thing was like a year in the making, right? So you were saying one thing about the NFL a year ago, but at the same time you were having conversations with the league on joining forces and making this thing happen, okay? And people are upset at Jay-Z because of the fact that he didn't include Colin Kaepernick in this enough in some people's eyes, that he didn't make Colin Kaepernick's unemployment somewhat of a stipulation as it relates to this union with the NFL. Not that he could tell Roger Goodell to put Colin Kaepernick on a team, but clearly it was not an issue with Jay-Z, Rock Nation joining forces with the NFL, okay? And I understand those questions. I understand those frustrations depending on where you stand on particular issues. Like, if you're going to say this, Jay, then you have to do this, right? And for some people, what he did do, was not in line with what he was saying earlier. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm also a firm believer when it comes to bringing forth change in something that's established. It's really, 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 really hard to do it from the outside. I would say almost impossible, but I won't go that far. You have to get inside something to change it from within, okay? And that is what Jay-Z is trying to do. There's no question about that. But he's not really in. The only way to be in is to be an owner, okay? You are in agreement. You're in a working association with the NFL, but you're not in the NFL. Actually, they are paying you for a service, okay? So that's not technically in. But if you have a relationship that you have trust and respect, maybe you can push for some initiatives, some ideas that would get done because you set them out there as opposed to someone else and it would have been ignored or dismissed, okay? So again, I understand the idea of being inside something to change it as opposed to beating the wall from the outside expecting them to do something about it, okay? So here is my question for the people who do have issues with Jay-Z, Rock Nation going into business with the NFL. What would have to happen for you not to feel that way? Some of you are mad at Jay-Z. What would have to happen for you to forgive him? What would have to happen for you to be like, oh, that's what he was doing from the very beginning. We just didn't know it. What tangible goals do you need to see accomplished in order for you to feel better about this situation? And for me, I don't know. I've been struggling with that question over the last couple of days. At my barbershop yesterday, my barber was going all in on Instagram defending Jay-Z on this thing. And there was a conversation clearly going back and forth in the shop yesterday about why Jay-Z was wrong. Even to the defense of my barber saying, no, you got to do it from the inside, things of that nature. Okay? And so the question was, what has to happen for you to feel better about this agreement? And again, I don't know. I don't know what tangible goal could be accomplished that I would be like, oh, that's what he did. Because, I mean, let's be real. How long would that take anyway? By the time it happens, are we still like, oh, man, yeah, remember a couple years ago we was all mad at Jay-Z? That's what he was doing. Are we going to get to that point? What would have to happen? What if some team signs Colin Kaepernick? Would that be something you would give Jay-Z credit for? I would think not, unless he had a conversation with a particular owner. It's like, hey, man, you need to put this dude on your squad. We're going to do all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. That seems a bit of a stretch, right? So what do you need to see from the NFL, from Jay-Z, to make you feel better about this if you are questioning Jay-Z's motives now? I mean, Jemele Hill from The Atlantic, she came out and had some pretty harsh words about Jay-Z, basically saying that he helped the NFL banish Colin Kaepernick. So they paid this dude money for us not to think about Colin Kaepernick anymore. That's how Jemele laid it out. Even Bomani Jones in The Undefeated, he wrote an essay, and his question was, who's getting paid and what justice is actually being amplified? Those are tangible questions that we could get answers down the road, but once we get those answers, will it make you feel better about the union to begin with? If you feel some type of way about it. Some of you like, hey, man, this is great. Boom, 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 boom. RK, fine, that's you. Some of you couldn't care less. That's also you. But a lot of you, including some very strong Jay-Z fans, were kind of scratching your heads about this thing. You've been critical of him. And this is probably the first criticism Jay-Z's really faced, right? I mean, what has he done that in his past, besides just make hits and make money and make babies with Beyonce, that someone would want to criticize him for, right? But he was catching heat from the culture about this. And some people raised very legitimate questions about this union. But what would have to happen for you to be like, okay, cool, I get it? Because Jay-Z said we're going to help millions and millions of people with this union, with the NFL, and this initiative. That's what he said. What proof of that help do you need to see to feel better about this? I don't know what that is. And I've been scratching my head about it myself over the last couple of days. Like, all right, I have a lot of questions about this. I'm trying to be patient and kind of, one, I want to hear what Jay-Z said. Then what he said didn't really help, quite honestly. But then what do I need to see to feel a certain way about this? I don't know what that answer is. Because in so many regards, it looks like Jay-Z just went for the bag. And why, of all people, would he just go for the bag? You have to believe it's more to it than that. He says it's more to it than that, but what do you need to see as proof? What do you need to see as proof that it wasn't just about the money for Jay-Z? Or is it, in your eyes, just a billionaire kicking with other billionaires? And this quasi-social justice initiative, blah, 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 blah. What do you need to see? 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Also hit me on Twitter at Michael Eaves. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save an average of $699 less per year. Coming up, back to your phone calls. A lot of people still want to talk about the quarterback situation, some of the displays we saw last night, positive and negative. Also, there's another quarterback I didn't mention earlier that I want to talk about, and that is Dwayne Haskins in Washington, the future that he has as a starter there in D.C. and how soon that future will start. Hey, do you have frequent heartburn, like the kind where you have an acid stash everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready